Weekly Shonen Jump is in a pretty weak state to say the least when it comes to new series that have brought a lot of fresh eyes to the magazine. It seems like Jump's been introducing new series every couple of months after viciously axing the previous batch of new releases. It doesn't matter if they come from veteran authors or excited newcomers. Jump doesn't give a single damn if it doesn't make money and will axe at manga when they feel like it in the most heartbreaking fashion possible. Even manga like Tenmaku Cinema, which had the famous Shun Saiki, artist of Food Wars, and other spicier pieces of media, just got axed, even though it seemed very promising in my opinion. There really doesn't seem to be that much patience from Jump's end when it comes to axing new manga, but that's a video for another day. My point is, new manga from Jump that have released over the past 3 or so years haven't really gotten that much hype. From the new batch, the only series that have active discussions with sizable communities are Sakamoto Days and Undead Unluck, both great battle shonen manga in their own right. Manga like Mission Yozakura Family and The Elusive Samurai are great as well, but they really haven't caught eyes in the West. I mean, Yozakura Family has damn near 200 chapters out, and the first season hasn't even dropped yet. This, coupled with the fact that Jujutsu Kaisen is going to end within a year or two, along with My Hero Academia, and that Black Clover's moved out of the magazine, well, it's not really looking too good for Jump right now. One Piece can only do so much. But then, on an early fall afternoon, when Shonen Jump needed it the most, a new manga was announced to be dropping in the magazine from promising mangaka Takeru Hokazono, who had released 2 one-shots previously that caught some steam due to the art. This manga was to be named Kagurabachi, and the Shonen Jump cover for it was quite eye-catching. Is it just an edgy-looking black-haired swordsman with a dead look in his eyes that you might have seen 500 times? Maybe, but that shit will always look raw. When I first heard about Kagurabachi, I thought it would get a little initial burst of hype before tapering off into irrelevancy and have no one read it when the first chapter officially dropped, aka the tale of a lot of new Jump manga. After all, the premise of Kagurabachi itself didn't sound too enticing and came off as a jumble of a lot of the more popular shonen such as Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen, but that wasn't the case at all. There's already a bunch of fan art for the series, hilarious edits, and even fan-made soundtracks. We got fans making soundtracks for an anime adaptation that won't even come out for 4 years if Kagurabachi even survives the axe in the first place. In fact, manga panels from Kagurabachi began leaking immediately before the first chapter even dropped. I have never seen that phenomenon before from an entirely new series, and it's even more surprising considering Hokazono isn't even a veteran mangaka. So what gives? What has made Kagurabachi so enticing that it's getting leaked without even having an official chapter out? Does it live up to the hype? It's time to see what Kagurabachi is about. Alright, obviously, I don't know if it's gonna live up to the hype after 1 chapter. I was just trying to build it up before y'all start throwing hissy fits saying, let it cook. I know. Anyways, what's Kagurabachi about? Kagurabachi is the story of a young man named Chihiro Kunishige, the son of an extremely famous swordsmith named Rokuhira Kunishige. Not only is Rokuhira an extremely famous swordsmith, he's basically the greatest of all time. The Messi of swordsmiths. The LeBron of swordsmith, alright? I'll stop before I get too controversial. He's not the hard-ass dad you'd expect him to be, as when he's not in the zone forging objects to slice people in half, he's talking to a goldfish and being a big old goofball. The fish themselves are seemingly important as each of them represents something different. The red one attracts good fortune, and the black one wards off evil. You'll see about the colored one later, as the appearance of it makes me think that all 3 of these fish will play a major part in Chihiro's powers and philosophy later on. Rokuhira gives me the same energy as Kafka from Kaiju number 8. Pretty lovable, goofy fella. He has a close friend named Shiba who gasses him up for being an insanely talented swordsmith and brings up the fact that Rokuhira is seen as a hero because of how his incredibly crafted swords helped during the Seitei War, which is a past event from 15 years ago that we don't really know about yet. Chihiro obviously admires his father a lot, although he doesn't share his goofy mannerisms and usually plays the straight man to him, which he probably got from his mother, which we haven't seen at all. Because guess what? His mom is missing, which is unfortunate, but come on, this is shonen. One of the parents have to be missing. At least it wasn't his dad. I've seen enough bum-ass fathers in this genre. Chihiro wants to become a great blacksmith like his father is, and he's taught that the blacksmith crafting the swords that cut people down have to take on the burden of the lives that were taken. Even though the craftsmanship might have been perfect, it's up to the user of the sword when it comes to who the sword is being used against. It's up to the blacksmith to make sure that their creations aren't used for mindless murder and that they don't fall into the wrong hands. After this lesson about what it truly means to be a sword forging blacksmith, we get a 38-month time skip, which is oddly specific. Like, that's barely over 3 years. Why 38? 3 years later, we see a much more mature Chihiro, aka an extremely edgy Chihiro that has a visual scar on his upper left side of his face, which gives me Tanjiro vibes. He also wields a sword that has water abilities, so obviously some clear inspiration was taken, which makes sense given Demon Slayer ran the manga industry for a bit and is still heavily influencing it today. Anyways, Chihiro, who's an adult now, seems to be a big old ball of edge, and we come to find out that he had lost his father during the time skip. And when I say edge, I mean young Sasuke levels of edge. I respect Chihiro's grind though. You gotta be different to get up extra early to keep your hatred going. Chihiro also has a vendetta against an organization of sorcerers that killed— yep, get the size out now. This manga has sorcerers. I'm kidding, but I'm getting a little tired of stuff like this. Chihiro's a badass now, working alongside Shiba to find a group of sorcerers called the Jujutsubashi Technical Sword— wait, no, wrong series. They're called the Hishaku, who I assume has this drippy fellow who's used his sorcery to sprout a tree from the ground as one of its members. There really isn't much groundwork for the power system yet, but I'm assuming it's your average sorcery-based stuff that uses elements to summon things and attack others with them. If it's as creative and in-depth as Jujutsu Kaisen's power system, then we're in for a ride, but that doesn't really seem like it's gonna be the case. Plus, comparing a power system to Jujutsu Kaisen's might just be asking for too much. I just hope that Kagurabachi retains the swordsmanship element when it comes to battling and doesn't turn into sorcery fights where Chihiro's launching water Rasengans using his sword before posing with it, acting like he just cut someone with it. I do find it neat that objects can be imbued with sorcery that allow the wielder of said object to unleash specific elements based on what the object was imbued with. We haven't seen much of it for now, but it's stated that Rokuhira earned his reputation as the greatest because he was able to imbue his blades with sorcery and give them special powers. Calling upon these powers seems to be done by uttering a cantrip to activate the abilities, like how Chihiro said Enten to unleash his fish attack, which mirrored the fish that his father had bought. I know special sword powers sound generic, but come on, are you telling me this isn't cool? There's a reason why this trope is so common in Battle Shonen. It hits every single time. Anyways, on his quest to find the Hishaku, Chihiro stumbles upon the Yakuza and kills them all with a cold look on his face, saying he's insane, saying he's gotta cut and kill everyone. I know he uses a sword, but this level of edge is crazy. But I have good faith it'll be less abrasive as the manga goes on and we find out why Chihiro is acting like this in the first place. On a side note, I just finished watching Vinland Saga, which had a message pertaining to having no enemies. Just to see this dude jump on a table and slice everyone's heads off without even asking them to buy a drink, Chihiro's truly on a mission. Honestly, the first chapter reminded me a lot of Chainsaw Man's first chapter, especially when it comes to some of the paneling and the whole main character murdering everyone, although it doesn't have nearly the amount of heart Chainsaw Man's first chapter did in my opinion. The art is generally quite good though, and I'm a fan of the Hishaku member that we saw. I like the facial expression changing panels as well, as it gives me Fujimoto vibes since he does this a lot. It seems to have a lot of qualities of other popular Shonen Jump manga out there, from the premise to the design of the main character himself. The way Hokazono draws characters themselves reminds me a lot of Yuki Tabata's or Naoya Matsumoto's art, especially Chihiro himself. Kinda reminds me of Yami, but maybe that's just me. Overall, I'm excited to see where Kagurabachi goes. I know it's too early to call this manga absolute greatness or garbage, but it's really nice to see the manga community be this excited for a new title. It feels like it's been forever, and seeing this level of discussion about it is refreshing. I'm rooting for you, Kagurabachi, and if Jump brings out the axe again, then all I have to say is, God damn it! You thought the fan soundtracks were overkill? We now have an actual voice actor dubbing over the first chapter of Kagurabachi. It's a wrap, y'all. I'll see everyone at Season 1's premiere.